welcome to another edition of the Lincoln Commission on Human Rights show. My name is Francisca. I'm a community outreach coordinator for the city of Lincoln, and today we have an awesome show. We try to bring in different agencies from our community so you all can get to know who makes up our community as a whole. So today with me, we have invited the Center for Legal Immigration and their executive director. So welcome, Mary. How are you?
Pretty good. Like Francisca said, I am Mary Choate, Executive Director of Center for Legal Immigration Assistance.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Mary, people always have questions, right, about immigration and what that looks like, what it actually is about, but we're not really going to get into that as much as I think it's important for the community to learn what your agency does, because it's like what it states, it's a Center for Legal Immigration Assistance, and there's so much more than just immigration. So can you please describe to us a little bit about what your office does?
Yeah, so our main goal is to provide comprehensive legal services to immigrants and refugees in Nebraska so they can thrive. What that means is we try to explain and break things down to clients anytime we meet with them in terms of immigration. We also have our other program, Uplift, that we have partnered with community centers, El Centro and Asian Community Cultural Center and Good Neighbor, yes, and Legal Aid as well. Mm-hmm. And so they provide help with tenant issues and stuff like that. So that's separate. But at the main location, we mainly focus on humanitarian and family-based immigration. So petitioning family members, applying for asylum, helping refugees, that sort of thing.
So there's a lot more to it than just, right, the refugees and immigrants and like you said, making sure that they are aware of what their next step is when it comes to immigration office, to immigrant status and things like that. But can you talk a little bit more about, well, first of all, how long has CALEA, short for CALEA, been around?
So we were founded in 2001, and I believe it was like after 9/11, if I remember correctly. And it was part of, and if I get this wrong, I'm going to feel so bad, but I think it was part of a church. I think it was United Methodist Ministries. And then in 2011, I think that's when we were incorporated as a nonprofit, according to our documentation. And that's kind of our history. And it was in 2001, it was response to a lack of immigration services in Nebraska. Our original founder, Max Graves, thought it was very important to help people have legal services so they didn't get taken advantage of.
Right. Yeah. And so from 2011 on, it's been a nonprofit. Yeah. And remind me, but it started off with 2 individuals.
Yeah, I do not remember. Max Graves is the main one, but I think there were some other attorneys as well that had joined in as well. But when I first joined, we had it was me and maybe 4 people were in the office, really. We've grown to about 8 or 9 so far, and I'm hoping in the next year we can expand. But we'll see how that goes in terms of funding. Right. That's my goal.
Yeah. So yes, I remember when the office first opened, it was a really small office close to the church, but now you've doubled in size. Yeah. Because the office originally had 3 offices, and now you've got almost half of the building.
Yeah, we got the middle part. Edward Jones is on one side and another store, the studio, is on the other. So we're just in the middle.
In the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks really nice. I mean, you can't miss it if you get to the office, which is really, really cool. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the services, but also, one of the biggest things that people associate with CALEA is the language barrier. And I know that CALEA does an awesome job of making sure you've got people who speak other languages.
So we have people on staff who speak Kurdish, Arabic, Spanish, and of course English as well. But we also have been developing a response to people who do not speak English by having contract interpreters. We also do work with Language Link as well, just to make sure that we have clear communication, because clear communication is very important when you're dealing with people who do not know English as their primary language. And you want to make sure that they understand what they're signing and that they understand what they're actually, agreeing to. It's very important to have that. And it's not just immigration, it's any area of law. You want to make sure your client understands you.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. Can you talk a little bit more about your Uplift program? I don't think some people really understand that.
Yeah.
First of all, Uplift program is an awesome program.
Yeah.
But if you could please describe what it actually is.
Yeah, so it was created, I believe, if I get this date wrong, again, I'm sorry, but I believe it was created with Max Graves, the legal aid, and I think it was 4 community centers at the beginning, but then they switched to 3, which was Good Neighbor, El Centro, and Asian Community Cultural Center. And so basically their focus was to handle issues related to the community, related common issues that they had. So landlord and tenant issues, debt issues like buying things and contracts and stuff like that, and also benefits as well. And sometimes they also deal with family law issues because there's, amongst the immigrant community, there's not a lot of help for family law representation, so advice in family law representation is very important, especially if there's a DV situation involved. A lot of times they can't afford a private attorney.
Right.
And so that's especially difficult. But it was very important to have CLIA involved with this project because we can serve people regardless of any documentation status. So we can serve anybody who's in Lincoln, any resident of Lincoln. Legal aid has restrictions on the services that they can provide just based on funding, but they do a great part of their own on their own end of the project as well.
Right.
So they help. They mainly go to Asian Community and Cultural Center and Good Neighbor, and our attorney goes to El Centro.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing project. I think that project has been going on for a few years now.
Yeah, it recently got renewed for funding, so we have more funding, so it's going to be continuing on. It's one of our more it's a successful program that we have at CLIA. So I'm especially grateful to the community centers because it does help. And this is something that legal aid has spoken about with us in meetings and stuff, and I've spoken out about. Community centers are so important to work with as attorneys because clients, they see us and sometimes they get intimidated.
Sure.
So you want to be sure to communicate with community centers and work with them because they can help you build trust with your clients, and that's especially important with this project.
Awesome.
So I want to compliment El Centro as well. And
That
all the
sounds
others
great.
that we
And
work
all the
with.
community center. No, and that's important, right? Because that is how you get your clientele.
Yes,
through that
exactly.
Uplift program. Can you talk a little bit more about the process when it comes to going to CLIA and asking for any type of assistance?
So it's important to, you can come to the office, of course. Now, if we are closed for whatever reason, we make sure to post signs. If we're out for lunch or closed because of short staff or whatnot, we always make sure, but you can always call us, leave a voicemail. We have our website. We do have our intake system, an online intake system on our website. We also have forms that you can download and email as well. We are restricted by income, and that's especially important. So we can't, I think it can't serve above 300% of the poverty line, but there's a certain percentage, I think it's below 125%, I'm probably going to get this wrong, where we can see for free.
Okay.
It's kind of like a sliding scale.
Sure.
And so we want to make sure that we see people that need our help the most.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. So if somebody was interested in any of your services, what would be the one thing you recommend to them? Do you want them to just show up, call, maybe really use your website?
Yeah. So what I would recommend for our services is to try to use our website, but that's why we have a lot of options. You can call. I'd encourage you to try to leave a voicemail, please. Say your name, number, and why you're calling.
Absolutely.
Don't just say like, hey, can I speak to Mary? Please don't do that, because then I'm going to get messages. I'm going to be like, who is this person?
Absolutely.
But just say, I would like to have a case with you guys, or I need help with this. Do you guys help with this? And again, you can also come to the office and we can try to provide help as well. And we work with community centers who know us as well. So they know our intake system, and if not, they can always help them fill out the intake system as well, because there's plenty of community centers that help us with that.
Absolutely. So if somebody was to show up at your office, what is it that they would encounter?
So they would probably encounter a front desk person, and if that person's not there, there will be somebody from staff that comes up, so if that person's on vacation or whatnot. And then we would just ask why they're there, and then you would just say that I'm looking for help with this situation, and then they would direct you towards filling out our intake process.
Okay. And that intake process is important.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit why that process is
So
important?
it started when I first joined CLIA. Admittedly, this is how we would take cases. We would get messages from those little messages books, and then we would just take every case.
Yeah.
But we did notice, I noticed, and everybody noticed, how eventually that was becoming burdensome on the staff, because we were just taking every case, and sometimes we just can't do that.
Right.
Or you lose staff members from burnout and stuff like that. And it's a serious problem, as you were aware, well aware of, in the nonprofit field. So we developed the intake process to make it more streamlined, so we know why they're asking for help. We have more details about their situation.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier for us to screen them, because it's very important for us to connect with the community. So we don't particularly want a phone number system, just because that's something that we pride ourselves on.
Absolutely.
So even if we can't serve them immediately, we really want them to have that intake in place, and then if they get services elsewhere, we can always be like, hey, you got services elsewhere. But we always provide a list of services if we can't help them immediately.
Right. So if somebody comes to your, to your office and you're not able to assist them for whatever reason, do you have a referral system, or do you usually try to?
Yes. So we have a list of referrals. I really want to update my list of referrals, just because with everything going on, we want to make sure we have a good referral system. And I want to make sure that I have everybody on the list is good and accounted for in terms of referrals. So updating contact information, updating attorneys if they're private attorneys, or updating organization contact information.
Absolutely. I know that you're involved in quite a bit of community programs, I should say. You tend to be in a lot of meetings. What does the future look for CALIA? Like, if you had a goal that you would love to meet, what would that be for CALIA?
Honestly, to hire probably at least two in this next year, maybe even the next 2 years, hire at least 2 additional people to take cases, potentially. Whether or not that's a legal assistant who could become accredited, which I can clarify on that if you want me to.
Absolutely. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in immigration, specifically immigration-related stuff, not anything else that I know of, you can become accredited through the Department of Justice, so DOJ accredited. And there's partial and full. Partial allows you to do immigration applications with USCIS immigration, and it allows you to help clients and give advice. Now you're like, oh, well, this is a little bit, what is this? And you're like, well, it's basically like an apprenticeship. You usually start off as a legal assistant. You get trained. You have cases under the supervision of an attorney or another accredited representative, and you also take trainings. And then you also have another 40-hour training on top of that. And then you have to pass a class. And pass a test as well. So there's a lot going on with this, and you also have to pass background checks as well. So yes. So that starts that. And if I didn't finish the previous question, I forgot what it was.
No,
I need to go
that's
back.
good. People should realize that while you do have attorneys on your staff, DOJ accredited individuals are very important to the type of work that you do, which is why you're hoping to hire 2 additional attorneys.
Yeah.
Because they complement your work.
Yeah.
So, and I think sometimes people don't understand that there is such a venue of
Yeah.
Department of Justice accreditation.
It's great too, because a lot of times people who have, and I'm actually also part of Career Ladder as well, and I'm not speaking on behalf of them today, but it's really important to me that immigrants and refugees, when they come here, that they do what they're passionate about in life. And something that really does help, especially if you had a law degree in another country and you can't practice law here because you have to go back to school or whatever, a good way and a good avenue, especially if they want to do immigration, is to become accredited. And I did that for one of my employees, and you know who that is.
Yeah.
So it's something that I'm incredibly passionate about. I think people should do what they love in life, not take the second option,
Right.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
I think it opens a pathway to at least getting as close as possible to what they used to do
Yeah.
if they're not able to go back to school
Yeah.
as an attorney.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly.
So no, being in a DOJ accredited I think it's great for the people who really like it, because I know it entails a lot of information and a lot of studying and assisting different classes.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think that is great that you're able to do that.
And it encourages people who can't afford to go to law school
Absolutely.
to become a member of this community and to become a member of a nonprofit community doing legal services. Because nonprofits really struggle sometimes, I think, hiring attorneys. And if you can do this, if you do everything good and you supervise them and all that, and make sure they're trained, and you will build a really good system for helping immigrants and refugees.
Awesome. That sounds wonderful. How is it that CALIA is sustained? I know that you're a nonprofit, so if you could ask anything from our community right now, what would that be?
So we're, like you said, we're nonprofit. So we're funded mainly by, one of our main funders is private foundations, and we also have grants through the city of Lincoln and the state as well. Something that we are working on is expanding our individual donors and diversifying our donors, and that's something that we decided in our strategic plan this year. And of course expansion as well, adding new employees. But to do that, you need funding. It's kind of it's not something that a lot of people don't like talking about as money, but working in nonprofit, a big thing is funding employees to take these cases, and to be able to be trained and have this streamlined system. I would just look up our information on our website. That's www.clianeb.org. So that's CLIA as in Nebraska, EEB as in boy.org. And it's on our website. There's stories about cases that we've done. There's information about our organization. There's information about how to get a case with us, that sort of thing. So that will really give you, and also how to donate. And that will give you kind of an idea about how you can help. And also to learn about our organization, because some people don't know about us, because this is the past few years, this is when I've been really trying to push our organization into the spotlight a little bit. And maybe if you guys like what we do, you can call, ask questions.
Absolutely.
Even if you're thinking about donating and you want to talk to me, I'd be willing to talk to you about the organization.
That's great. So we will have that information at the end of the program, which will have your CALIA, the Center for Legal Immigration Assistance, contact information, website. I'm a little biased because I used to work at CALIA, and it truly is, it's a great organization, and the help that people get through CALIA is just the best for what resources CALIA has, right?
Yeah.
So I do appreciate you taking the time to be here today. I hope that this not only helps you get a little bit more exposure with the community, but also that way people can be better informed, because they might know somebody who could use your services. And so I look forward to hearing about if you get any kind of strange calls like, oh, I saw you on the LCHR show. So, but thank you so much, Mary, for taking the time to be here today.
No, thank you, and thank you to the city of Lincoln, because you guys are amazing.
Thank you so much. So with that, Please look at the contact information for Mary Choate for the Center for Legal Immigration Assistance. And with that, remember, we all have rights.